Hello to all of you from around the world. I want to welcome you back to another edition of Soulivity Today. We are broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on our favorite radio station out west, KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Westley Johnson, and whether you're at home or driving or at work, we're always glad you're here with us. We have another amazing show for you today, and I'm joined by Sheila Applegate, host of Consciously Awesome Living, which broadcasts each Wednesday at 12 noon. Hello, Sheila.
Hey, Brian. It's great to be
What's
here.
what's been going on?
You know what? This weekend, I have season tickets to Syracuse Stage here,
Oh,
and
wow.
all the shows have been something I hadn't heard of, really neat and artistic shows. And this time it was a Christmas Carol. And as I was going there, I was like, I don't know if I'm that excited. I've seen this before, many times. It was so incredible. It blew me away. I had never seen it in that way
hmm
before. I guess there's different versions. So part of it was that, but they teamed up with a circus and did all these acrobats.
Wow.
I'm like, I was up close. My seats are fairly close up and on the aisle. And the silks that they use, like it's like trapeze, but instead of a
Oh, yeah.
bar, it's like the
Yeah.
silk, like yoga does it too. But it came down from way up in the ceiling, and this actor who is also in the circus starts
Uh-huh.
like twisting and turning like a half a foot away from me in the sky, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." But it was just so
Wow.
cool and so uplifting and such a surprise because I was just like, "Oh, bah humbug," right? I've seen this before. That was exciting.
Wow, I love circuses. It's just like magical to me. Been wanting to go back and check that out, like check out a circus.
Yeah.
But just haven't done it. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that.
No
That's
problem.
amazing. That's amazing.
I just have to
Um,
say my dad was a shrine clown, so I have an affinity to circuses too.
Oh man. I never knew that. That's like the coolest thing in the
I
world. The
thought maybe
Shrine Circus.
it doesn't.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Shrine Circus was like the bomb. I mean, that was the main one we
right?
would go to, you know. And then Barnum and Bailey's, of course, you know.
Mhm.
But that's so
Nice.
wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing
How
that. That's
about
a
you?
wonderful way to. We're remodeling. We're doing some home
Oh.
stuff, and so we're in the midst of like beautiful, joyous noise. Notice how I said that.
There you
Beautiful,
go.
joyous noise. I'm going to say that again. Beautiful, joyous noise. But it's gonna be great. I mean, we're redoing this bathroom, and it's gonna be marvelous when we're done. And so I'll share
Yeah.
pictures with you when we get it all said and done. Special show today.
Mhm.
I thought that with everything going on and that can be kind of negative in the world, that I thought we always do a show that's a little bit more personal, a little bit more empowering. So why don't we get to it? Last week, the world said goodbye to one of the most influential first ladies of the past 50 years. Rosalynn Carter, who transitioned on November 19th, was finally memorialized Wednesday in the same tiny town where she and former President Jimmy Carter were born, forever their home base as they climbed to the White House and traveled the world for humanitarian causes. She was an amazing woman.
This
Mhm.
week, we lost three giants in the world of Washington. Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman ever to serve on the Supreme Court. Henry Kissinger, the complicated and often controversial statesman who advised 12 presidents, serving as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor to both Presidents Nixon and Ford. And former First Lady Rosalynn Carter, who was laid to rest on Wednesday in Plains, Georgia, the town of 600 where she met her husband. President Jimmy Carter left hospice care to attend the services. In 1976, during Carter's campaign for president, Rosalynn Carter imagined what kind of First Lady she might become.
I don't think I could ever compare myself with Eleanor Roosevelt, but there are so many things that I see that need to be done. I don't think I have ever shied away from controversy. I don't think Jimmy has ever shied away from controversy. Jimmy has always told me that if you do anything, you're going to be criticized. The only way not to be criticized is just to be mediocre, never do anything. And but the things that I want to work with are the mental health program. I've worked with that for a long time. I'm very concerned about that. I want to work with programs of the elderly. Everybody talks about the elderly, but nothing gets done for them. To me, it's urgent.
Rosalynn Carter was 96 years old.
Thank you, Kristen Walker and NBC News, for that very special report. So today, what we'd like to do is we'd like to honor the life and legacy of former First Lady and humanitarian Rosalynn Carter with 4 things that you may not know about her. Sheila, what was one memory that you have of Rosalynn Carter growing up?
You know what? Jimmy Carter was the first president I remember as a little child, right? So I don't
Yeah.
have a lot of memory of them being in office.
Mhm.
And I didn't have, my parents, I love my parents, but they were Republican. And so they were not always speaking kindly. I mean, they didn't speak poorly of him, but it wasn't like they were thrilled. And I remember on the
Right.
school bus, the kids had learned a song to make fun of Jimmy Carter. And so as I grew older and understood and realized who I was and what I believed, and we moved into the next era, I learned about them then and had so much respect for their
Mhm.
kind-heartedness, just this willingness to persevere and to
Yeah.
do what they felt was
Yeah.
right for the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's really an incredible couple, both of them,
Yeah, as I was preparing the show today, there was a few things that I even didn't know. I knew about certain things that we're going to share. I'm not going to give
Mhm.
away what I knew and what I didn't know. But what was constant was they were all about service to their family, service to each other, service to the community and the world. They were
Mhm.
really dedicated to bringing about change based upon an open heart and love thy neighbor. I mean, they really, really, really
Right.
personified that. Um, let's first begin with Rosalynn Carter's unwavering support and advocacy for mental health, because was very important to
Mhm.
her. Her efforts both in and outside of the White House were instrumental in changing lives forever, including the historic passage of the Mental Health Systems Act of 1980.
I got upset with the press too because they covered my mental health work the first few meetings I had. And then they never showed up anymore. And one of the things I wanted to do is bring attention to the issue and how terrible it was and what few services there were. And thinking just getting it out in the public. That's what I did in Georgia, developed a good program in Georgia, by the way. But they just didn't come. And so one day I was walking in the downstairs floor in the White House and met this woman who was one of the press people. And I said, nobody ever covers my meetings and she said, Ms. Carter, mental health is just not a sexy issue. and that I didn't like, but I never did get very much coverage for it. But we toured the country, found out what was needed, developed legislation, and passed the Mental Health Systems Act of 1980. It passed through Congress 1 month before Jimmy, as he says, was involuntarily retired from the White House, and the incoming president put it on his shelf, never implemented it. It was one of the greatest disappointments of my life.
Mental health issues weren't that sexy back in.
hmm
How important was that? And what's interesting is that I was thinking about the connection, the through line between Betty Ford, who was the first lady before Jimmy Carter, who was, with the Betty Ford Center and her
hmm
her her dealing with alcoholism and her bringing that forward as both a physical disease also that involved mental health. Rosalynn Carter bringing that forth, and then a mental health systems act that probably would have changed our
hmm
how we look at mental health broadly, gets put on the shelf in 1980 by Ronald Reagan. And that was also
Right.
during the time at which a lot of mental health facilities were being closed across the United States through the
hmm
70s and 80s. What a forward-thinking woman in terms of
hmm
that whole thing. What are your thoughts when you just hear her story about that at time?
You know, to me, I think about it's almost like that was this apex in our country, this pivotal point,
Yeah.
and we went down this timeline. Like, we could have gone down a completely different timeline. Imagine
Right.
what our world would be
Alternate
like,
reality.
right? Because we went right from that to this crunch that led us to where we are today, with capitalism being at the forefront of all things.
Right.
And what a different path that we could have taken. So I guess there's this nostalgic sadness. And then, I was in school in the later 80s, early 90s for my master's degree in social work. So, of
Right.
course, the impact of my entire career could have been different. I mean, fortunately, we are circling back to being more aware of mental health now, but that's a lot of years later. That's 40 something years later, 40, 50 years later,
Right. And
you
we're
know?
just now really thinking about mental health in the same way. And it's just I'm just blown away. I'm just blown away. Again,
Yeah.
um the part that I didn't know was that that law that passed with overwhelming bipartisan support
hmm
didn't get implemented in the next administration
Right.
when it was that important, you know. But
hmm
anywho. Listen, let's take a break because there's a whole lot more about Rosalynn Carter that we want to share with you. So we're going to take this break and we'll be back with more of Soulivity today in about 2 minutes. Hi there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. Hello there. We're back here with more on Soulivity today. I want to remind you that there's plenty of free courses at our Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Just go to Aspire, that's ASPIRE.soulivity.com and sign up. It's absolutely free and you can take those courses today. Listen, we are honoring the life and legacy of former First Lady Rosalynn Carter with some things you may or may not have known about her. And back with us is Sheila Applegate. This next piece, Sheila, I think that you're going to really, really love, because I know how you love humanitarian support mechanisms that bring everybody. It bridges this gap, this perceived gap between cultures and people and all this kind of thing, and it brings it together. So I know you're going to love this. A re-election defeat in 1980, which Rosalynn Carter was just talking about, didn't stop her and Jimmy Carter from founding the Carter Center in partnership with Emory University that same year. With a fundamental commitment to human rights and the alleviation of human suffering, the center seeks to prevent and resolve conflicts, enhance freedom and democracy, and improve health as well. So let's learn a little bit more about them.
There are more than 7 billion faces on Earth, some full of hope and dreams, others empty with despair, constrained by barriers that keep them from healthy and productive lives. The Carter Center works to tear down those barriers and create a world where everyone has a chance to live in peace and enjoy basic human rights.
We are willing to take a chance that we might fail if we believe that the ultimate goal is worthwhile, worth our effort, and worth an investment in people who have been neglected by others. She gets three tablets.
The Carter Center has worked in over 80 countries to advance peace and fight devastating diseases.
Salam alaikum.
Over the years, the center has helped improve relations among nations and has worked to promote human rights, resolve conflicts, and strengthen democracies.
Did you vote? Yes. Congratulations.
The center has observed more than 100 elections in countries in Asia, Africa, and the Americas. As a result, leaders are held accountable to the people in places that have never had free and fair elections. The Carter Center is a leader in fighting neglected diseases like guinea worm, river blindness, trachoma, and lymphatic filariasis. These are gone from the developed world, but they still afflict some of the poorest people on Earth.
These diseases are all preventable. If the folks are just given a chance to know what they can do to improve their own lives, then they can transform their own lives into an opportunity for hope and self-respect and anticipation of a better future.
The center also strives to improve access to mental health care and reduce stigma and discrimination against those with mental illnesses.
So today is the last day that you will distribute here.
The people of the Carter Center work for peace, fight disease, and most importantly, bring hope to those who never had it before.
We were the poorest, most isolated people in the world. And often, if we weren't there, there would be nobody to help them.
The Carter Center works where the need is greatest to improve the lives of the poor, the disadvantaged, and those who have no voice.
Yeah, incredible.
Talk about putting your money where your mouth is, and meaning what you say. Just a couple of things on the Carter Center itself. They've done a lot in the last 40 years, 40 something years since they have been founded. Some of the highlights, 11 years after the Carter Center started assisting African countries with eliminating trachoma, which is a bacterial eye disease. It was eliminated. It was no longer a public health concern in 2010.
Incredible.
They reduced the number of guinea worm. I mean, that was one of their first initiatives. They reduced that down to where it's not even in the hundreds of cases anymore. It used to be like 500, 600 cases per community, and now that's basically dropped down to where now it's really, really manageable. And they've done other incredible things. And this is outside of their work with, Habitat for Humanity and all that. And that they've been doing work around the world quietly, purposely, and consistently for decades. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing. What are your thoughts?
I think it's so powerful that they, when we step back and look at all that they did, they never diverted from their truth.
Right.
And imagining how much they've impacted the world with all of those democracies, right? So you do wonder, like, on a global scale, were they able to do more outside of the presidency than they were within it? It's not that they were
Right.
apolitical, because they were helping to bring true democracies into the
Mm-hmm.
world, but they were just finding the problem, looking at the world and where things needed help, and listening and going in and taking care of it. And that legacy, not only the legacy, but the Carter Center will continue. So I just have so much gratitude for these people who never forgot who they were and continued from the heart.
They, again, they really led by example. And that I don't know of an instance where they weren't telling people to do something that they weren't already doing and had been demonstrating.
Right.
The part that really sticks out for me is in the midst of Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter losing the re-election campaign, right? In the midst of all that, knowing that they're losing, they are founding the Carter Center to do all these things that they wanted to do while they were in president. So they were like, okay, well, let's just keep moving. Let's just keep it moving.
And I think if we could learn one thing from them, it would be to do that, right? We're look at the world around us and what we don't like, do what we can. And it's going to be different for us. Most of us don't have the title of former first lady or president, and we don't have the finances at that level to use, but we do have the wherewithal to do that. We can learn from that and just keep plugging away at what we know, what we see, what skills we have, what we have available to us.
Absolutely. And one other thing for friends and family that live in poorer districts across the United States. One of the important initiatives that the Carter Center did within Georgia, and specifically within the city of Atlanta, as it was going through its change, was they created a public response and a program that started a lot of economic development in that city. So, former Mayor Maynard, I'm trying to remember his last name, along with other Black leaders and other leaders from other parts of the community, they came together and they started doing the economic development there. So a lot of the things that you're seeing in Atlanta today are in part due to the foundational things that were laid out in the 80s with the Carter Center and with the community leaders that were there. So, again, quietly, progressively, powerfully, without them saying, see what we're doing and all that. Nope, they just were doing the work. So
Right.
it's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. Listen, while we take another quick break, we've got more stuff. I don't want to run out of time because I want to make sure that we get to all this stuff about Rosalynn Carter today. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Six years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Hey, we are back with more of Soulivity today. We are honoring former First Lady Rosalynn Carter, her life and her legacy, which is just a beautiful, beautiful love story, not only between her and her husband and her family, but to the world. Sheila, I mean, I'm just so glad that we're doing this. I'm glad. I'm really, really happy we're talking about her, because I think out of different people that we aspire to be, her life and her legacy really is one that I think that we would all say, yeah, this is something we look up
Right.
to, this person.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
this next one is really important, regardless of what you feel about vaccination. I know over the last few years, vaccination has become a political football, specifically because of what happened during the COVID pandemic. But Rosalynn Carter, again, who was out on the forefront of trying to support people who were dealing with a debilitating illness. In 1991, in response to the U.S. measles epidemic, which sickened more than 55,000 people, hospitalized 11,000, and killed more than 120 people, many of whom were young children. Rosalynn Carter, along with former First Lady of Arkansas, Betty Bumpers, founded the Every Child by Two, Now Vaccinate Your Family, to foster vaccination efforts and build immunization coalitions. And they actually traveled, Sheila, to like 50 different states supporting this around the country. Let's learn a little bit more.
So Every Child by Two was founded in 1991, which is 25 years ago now, by former First Lady of the U.S., Rosalynn Carter, and former First Lady of Arkansas, Betty Bumpers. We have a large social media platform called Vaccinate Your Family, and on that platform we have over 200,000 followers who share messages exponentially. And so we really, truly try our best to bring evidence-based information to them about vaccines, things that they can share with their family members to help encourage vaccination. There is an abundance of information on how to communicate about vaccines. I'm sure these researchers always wonder who's reading it, and we are reading all of the research. So we have a very small team of folks. We don't have the money really to do our own messaging, our own testing of our messaging, and so we pore over the research. And some of the research is showing that the way that we thought was the proper way to communicate about vaccines perhaps wasn't the best way to communicate, bringing confidence to people about the decisions they're making. So we've looked at the research. We used to have a program called Vaccinate Your Baby, and we've redone the whole program to incorporate messaging about the entire family and how vaccinating one part of your family is actually helping your other parts of your family. We also look at how talking more about the burden of the disease and how dangerous the diseases are is so important at the upfront, and not to really start in with the fact that they're safe. Really holding back on that for people who really want to know that. Because some people come and they just want to know what they're supposed to be vaccinating with or why they need to vaccinate, not necessarily are they safe. So that's, I think, the biggest takeaway about looking at the research and understanding how best to communicate.
It just gets better and better. I mean, again, leading with information, leading with not a foregone conclusion of of vaccination. I think, which was something that was happening during the COVID pandemic, right? There was this push around people just being safe, and it's like there's this information that they knew that needed to get out. That, listen, here's the basic facts. This is about the disease. This is what this can do to prevent the disease. This is how it affect your family members and then their family members after that. They have done some really, really, really incredible work. What say you, Sheila?
Well, one of the things reading the article that really stood out to me is that they were identifying, I think back in the 90s, that it was heading down a bipartisan perspective. And so
Right.
they made the effort to bring the knowledge and the wisdom out to people um, in a nonpartisan way. And it just, like you're talking about COVID now, what an escalation of that dialogue, not their dialogue. They were combating that, or combating that with truth, right? Trying to get knowledge out to the community and continue to, and maybe more effective in other countries than even in the United States, because I truly believe that there was a social media, there was intelligent propaganda put in, intelligence, not intelligent, but like some of some of the conspiracy theories were, purposely put in to break up the infrastructure. And that being one of them, that by COVID had just escalated out of hand, right? But I think, uh, yeah, so I guess just a lot of respect, and the the organization working so hard on the communication and understanding the nuances, right? Because
Yeah,
culturally, there's going to be different nuances based on history. And so, yeah, I just have a lot of respect for the intention, the focus on education, and the drive to move that forward.
absolutely. Again, I mean, this is what it's all about. Where they were they weren't looking down to people, right?
Hmm.
Throughout all these different things that Rosalynn Carter specifically spearheaded, or with her husband, it was all around. I see you. I see that you need support, and so I'm going to bring this to you, and I'm going to actually take the time to explain what this is before I try to sell you on why you should be using it,
Right,
right? Or why you should be doing
right.
this. It's like just amazing, amazing, amazing. I want to just jump into our last story for Rosalynn Carter, and I think it's something that personifies her dedication to her family, and then using that as a jump off point to bring light and support with others. And it revolves around caregiving. This is something that I didn't know about her. But as I
Hmm.
read about it, and as I learned more, it was like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Um, she began her caregiving journey at an early age, from the time of her father's cancer diagnosis to his passing when she was 13. Rosalynn Carter helped care for him and her younger siblings. And then in 1987, this is just 7 years, again, 7 years after they left the White House, she founded the Rosalynn Carter Institute for Caregivers to promote the health,
Hmm.
strength, and resilience of America's 53 million family caregivers. Let's learn a little bit more.
Well, the wife of former President Jimmy Carter is no stranger to taking care of family members. In fact, President Carter is recovering right now from a broken pelvis at their home in Plains, Georgia.
But today, Rosalynn Carter brought a convention of 100 to Atlanta. CBS 46's Sally Sears heard loud praise for the First Lady and her Caregiving Institute. Sally, you're joining us live from the Carter Center with more. We'd love to hear all about it.
We are intrigued. We all know the Carter Center around the world here in Midtown Atlanta as the place that fights international issues of elections and loathsome diseases. But today, Mrs. Carter brought an issue much closer to home. The issue is caregivers who take care of family members, usually without pay, and everybody here has a story.
Right this minute, I am now a caregiver. I just talked with Jimmy, and he told me that he slept all night long, and this was at 7:30 this morning. He slept all night and was in his office working.
Lunch at the Rosalynn Carter Institute of Caregiving swirled around the experiences of the woman who began it when she left the White House.
40 to 50 million people in the U.S., the same number of people who have student loan debt, should be recognized in the same way, and that should be a conversation at companies and in policymakers' work.
People are caregivers for decades.
Jennifer Olson is an epidemiologist. She's taking the lead at the Institute for Caregiving based in Plains, Georgia. She and Mrs. Carter are convinced we'll all be caregivers and care-getters one day. So what do we need to know?
Caregiver has to take care of herself or himself, because if she or he doesn't, the quality of the care they can give to the loved one is diminished.
Spreading the message includes stories on Sesame Street, told by Muppets like Rosita, who, like the rest of the room, gave Rosalynn Carter herself a big hand. Several of the people at the conference today reminded us all that it is a whole lot cheaper. There's a big economic incentive in taking care of caregivers because they keep people at home and out of a fairly expensive hospital stay. Live at the Carter Center, Sally Sears, CBS 46 News.
Yeah, there could be some money saved with that, Sally. And you had a rare opportunity to speak with Mrs. Carter. I was just still full of energy. Does she plan on retiring anytime soon?
She was lovely. She was vigorous, and I got no hint that she is retiring. She is merely passing the torch. She is 92 years old, and she does love to take care of Jimmy Carter in Plains.
All right, Sally, thank you so much.
Whew. 92 and so again, this is a 92-year-old woman who is out here advocating for all of us who will, like as the video said, at some point we're either going to be a caregiver or a caregiver at some point in our lives. And so, man, what were you thinking about as you saw that story, Sheila?
She's just such a beautiful soul, and I'm so grateful she's on Earth, or was on Earth. Well, I feel continue to support us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it flashed me back. I'm just coming off a couple years, 3 years now of away from having cared for both my parents at the end of their life with Alzheimer's and dementia, and I thought I was taking care of myself throughout the process, but when it was over, there was so much repair for me to do on my body and, you know, just
Wow.
recuperating.
Wow.
So I can imagine, you know, just it to me, she experiences life and then she sees the big picture. So if this happened to me, how do I support others? Coming from I'm still kind of blown away by the town of 600 and meeting, like, clearly they grew up together. They like, what kind of soul connection is that? But to come from a small town setting and then
Right.
to have that wherewithal to
Right.
identify whatever they see and then take it to the global picture to help others. She's just incredible with that.
I wonder about that too sometimes, Sheila, where we're talking about rural America, right? And sometimes my experience of rural America has not always been that great. And because it seems as though there was this kind of limited thinking. Same kind of thing that happens in urban and suburban areas too, but it's a little bit more pronounced because you're away from large populations of people.
Right.
But they had zero of that.
Limited thinking. Yeah.
Limited thinking. They just were like, we're all God's children. I mean, I could tell that some of this was born out of their faith, which was Christianity, but a really progressive Christianity where, again, love thy neighbor, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, all these different things that you would hear in that doctrine of faith, they lived it. They lived it. And so I'm with you on this. I mean, really thank you, God, for the blessing of Rosalynn Carter while she was here and the continued blessing of her legacy as she is on the other side of the veil, probably still supporting us energetically and, you know, tapping people on the shoulder and doing certain things and probably watching over Jimmy as he's preparing for his transition. What, again, I think you said it all. What a wonderful and beautiful soul. Guys, listen, we're going to take a quick break, but we got more Soulivity coming up. Maybe some final thoughts about everything we've heard today about Rosalynn Carter. So we'll be right back in about a couple minutes. can find all of the Satana products at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Hey, we are back with more of Soulivity today, where we have been talking about the life and legacy of Rosalynn Carter. What a beautiful soul that this woman is and continues to be. But just on the other side of the veil, she's just a touch away. Sheila, do you have any final thoughts about her life and legacy?
I do. First of all, I want to thank you, Brian, for bringing this up as a topic for us today, because honestly, I just sort of had let the whole passing, I hadn't put much attention on it. And to take time to honor her, to remember her, and for me to reconnect to her. Because for me, sometimes I think when someone crosses over because of what I do, I'm like, oh, I have more access to them. Now we're going to be friends.
Right.
And when you did the opening, we always do a meditation before we start the show. And when you did that today, I felt her presence right there. And I'm thinking of her as a caretaker and a leader. And sometimes we don't realize that dying first is also a way of caretaking sometimes, because she kind of creates that path and can help her beloved over through the other side. So I feel like she continues to do that.
Wow. Well, I found a wonderful quote from hers. I won't say that sums up everything that her life is, but it gives you a glimpse into why I think her and Jimmy had this connection and why they were so staunch around helping people, or at least trying to help people. And it goes, you must accept that you might fail. Then, if you do your best and still don't win, at least you can be satisfied that you've tried. If you don't accept failure as a possibility, you don't set high goals, you don't branch out, you don't try, you don't take the risk. So all I'll say is, Rosalynn Carter, thank you for taking the risk in terms of dreaming your dreams, following your heart, caring for people from around the world as though they were your own children. And that you were thank you for seeing us, and thank you for supporting us, and thank you for your life and your legacy as we remember all the things in grace that you have given us. So thank you so much. Why don't we move on to some Soulivity shameless plugs before I end up crying over here.
Crying is a good thing.
Yeah, a little soulful water, a little soulful water. Sheila, you've got, again, this is an amazing thing where, again, like this energy of heart energy, and that you and your partner Zach kind of bring out of people during this experience for fractal illumination. Can you tell people a little bit more about this? A great event that's coming up on December 16th.
Yes, fractal illumination, which is featured in the Energy Healers Oracle, which is an internationally best-selling book, just to give it some
Yes.
foundation here, is a is a energy technique that my partner Zach and I brought through Spirit to support people in harmonizing, finding harmony in this chaotic world. And I think as we talk today, that is such a beautiful space, because when we find that nurturing and harmonizing for ourselves, we can help others. So we
Right.
have a gathering coming up on December 16th in here in central New York, and also can access it through long distance. So it's open to anyone, and you can find that on my website, SheilaApplegate.com.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Um, while we're running out of time, just want to say, go check out our Soulivity website at soulivity.com, where you can learn more about everything that Soulivity is doing, as well as, begin your journey around passion and purpose. We've got some fantastic articles that are there, including our new series that we just started on Bridging the Gap, Health Equity for All, where we're doing a Soulivity exclusive interview with Dr. Lindy Richardson, who's the founding co-director of the Institute for Equitable Research. Thank you so much, Sheila, for being here for this show. I really, 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 really appreciate you and all that you do, and all, so thank you. Thank you for being
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate
here.
you immensely
Aw.
also.
Oh, listen, everybody, we are running out of time. And see, I want to just start the whole show over again. Listen, this is how we do it every weekday from Monday through Friday. You can listen to us or watch us on KMET 1490 AM radio at 8 a.m. Pacific time or 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast right here on Soulivity.com. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly